Hey guys, welcome back to a new knife review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the ZT-0609 designed by RJ Martin. This knife has me conflicted a little bit, and it's mostly because of my personal situation, which we will get into. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the technical specs that I care about. Alright guys, so taking a look at the specs here, first off, you got a blade length of 3.4 inches. That is a 0.12 inch thick blade, and it's a flat ground, satin finish with the stonewash flats that ZT usually always does, CPM 20 CV blade steel, and weight on this guy is 3.3 ounces. It's a titanium frame lock with the stainless steel insert and over travel stop. Of course, manual, runs on the KVT bearings. Your pocket clip is kind of a more standard spring clip, reversible left or right hand, tip up only. And then kind of the more interesting portion of this knife is the see-through pivot. So you can see there's just the space that goes through that. Kind of cool. There is one slight hiccup there for me at least, and again we'll get into that here in a second. So first we're going to go ahead and take a look at the blade. Alright guys, so let's take a quick look at the blade here. Blade is one of the things that I like the most. I like the shape and the grind of it. So you just got kind of this basic, flat grind here. You get that swedge up there that really gives the knife a pretty nice look. You get kind of this dip down in here, so if you're really up on the knife, your thumb just kind of sits in that little groove there. Yeah, I mean the jimping isn't really anything to write home about. I'd say it works better on the handle, if anything, just because there's really not even much on there, but it's still there, I guess. There is a little bit of that same jimping on the flipper tab. That stuff is pretty rounded there, so it doesn't like grab onto your finger at all, really. So I mean, just the shape of the flipper tab, though, doesn't really, it's not like you need a whole bunch of grip. Your finger sits on there pretty well, and you don't have a lot of issues slipping off. But, yeah, just thought I would mention it. Jimping's not all that great, but it's not a huge deal. Finish on the knife is always nice. As usual, they do the satin grinds and then the stone-washed flats. And I've said this before, it's just nice. It's really subtle, but it gives a little bit of definition from the flats to the actual grind that your eyes can kind of make that definitive, lines out a little bit more. It's a nice touch. I like it. As usual, you get all your information here. So, model number, blade steel, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't look too bad here, but still, I wish they would kind of get rid of some of this lettering. I understand putting some of this stuff up there, but not all of that info is required. You get the sharpening notch here, so no problem sharpening that blade all the way back, and this one is sharpened pretty straight all the way back, so kudos to them on that. Yeah, I'd say that about covers the blade. I really like it. I like the way the blade looks. It's one of the things that I like the most about this knife. So, yeah, get a pretty good, not super precise tip, but it's pretty pointy there. So, with the blade out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the handles. There's quite a bit going on there. Alright guys, taking a quick look at the handle here. Now, make no mistake, I like the way the handle looks. I like it in hand, but there are some things here that make the knife start to kind of veer off in that direction where, like I said, it's just making me a little bit conflicted of this knife here. Let's just go ahead and start off with, the machining. I think the machining they did on it's really cool. It looks great, pretty unique. You don't see, patterns like this all that often. As far as in the hand, the ergonomics are great. It really fits into your hand really nicely. So that I do like. I mean, like I said before, the jimping up here isn't, spectacular, but the way that it locks into your hand, you really don't need it. So that's why I'm a little bit more inclined to give it a pass in that department. The first thing, let's just go over the pivot here. So this is the see-through pivot. It's kind of cool. I would almost say it's gimmicky, and it kind of is. It's like a little cool novelty factor. The part that makes this not cool is, as you can see, of course, there's just a blank space in the middle there. You have to get a special tool for it. It's the, what is that? STP tool, see-through pivot tool. So it's magnetized, which is nice because once you lock it into the little holes there, at least it's magnetized so the knife, it's less inclined to fall when you're adjusting it. So, you can make your whatever adjustments, and then, it magnetizes just back in like that. Having a proprietary tool isn't something that I'm totally keen on. The knife is already expensive as it is, and the fact that I have to then go out and buy a proprietary tool that isn't exactly cheap kind of sucks a little bit, simply because they wanted it to look cool or, have a little bit more of a cool factor that doesn't really help at all or, add to the knife in a huge portion. So that's kind of a bummer. It is cool, but it's also overshadowed by the fact that you now have to buy, an extra tool. I want to say it was like $18 or, it was $20 or maybe a little under $20 for that tool. So kind of just a little bit of a bummer. So that's the pivot. Other things here, the pocket clip, it's not a deep carry pocket clip or anything, but I'm not mad. It works great. You still only have about that much knife showing out of your pocket. So it's not like you got this huge chunk of knife just hanging out, and the retention is fine. In the hand, you don't feel it. It lays really low on the actual knife handle. So no hot spots at all for that clip. And again, the fact that it lays pretty low, and if you guys follow me on Instagram, I'm cursed with snagging my pocket clips on basically anything I can possibly get it snagged on. Never been an issue with this one. So yeah, it's just a very basic pocket clip, but it works and I like it, and it doesn't look horrible either. So yeah, there's that. Other things here, knife is see-through construction. So you just get the standoffs there. Look pretty cool. They're just basic, it is what it is. Now getting to kind of the other part of the knife that is kind of a little bit of a bummer for me personally, and I don't know if it's just a representation of this specific example that I have. The lock bar has quite a bit of tension to it. Not an insane amount, but there's a lot of lock bar tension there. Usually not an issue. But where it does suck for me is, they try to give this relief right here. They don't really give you a whole lot to, catch and get your thumb in there. So one, I already feel like I kind of have to mash my thumb in there a little bit to disengage the lock. Two, there is a little bit more lock bar tension than I see on other knives. I feel like it doesn't have to be that much tension. And then third, the thing that adds to all of that is the way that this is machined. So you see, you know, they have some of these edges chamfered and it looks great, but they have, you know, the chamfering on that side for the relief. And then on this side, they have it chamfered almost in the same exact way, you know, just for the design of the handle. But it leaves like a thinner portion here. So when you do mash your thumb in there, it's like this thinner piece that, you know, like you can see the indent on my thumb right there. And I'm not trying to be like a, you know, whatever, but it's not comfortable for me. So that in itself, aside from another issue that we'll get into in a second here, has made me not want to carry it just because it's not comfortable. You know, like I may not have to use this knife very often through the day or whatever, but I still like to take my knives out and flip them around a little bit. You know, it's kind of, you know, comforting in a way. It takes my mind off things. It's distracting a little bit. It's fun. So that definitely takes away from that for me. It's just not comfortable for me to disengage the lock. And it's, like I said, it's lock bar tension. It's the way that the relief is cut in on both sides there and leaves you with this thin portion to smash your edge, your thumb against. So yeah, that's I would say of all things, that's the biggest reason why I don't carry this knife as much as I would like to, is because it's just not comfortable for me. Everything else, you know, as far as the handle goes, is nice, you know, with the exception of the see-through pivot. But yeah, that's my experience with that. It's enough for me to not want to carry the knife as much as I'd like to. So I know that will be something that you guys will want to know as well. So getting this long portion of the handles done out of the way, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the action and fit and finish. All right, guys. So action and fit and finish. Interesting subject for this knife. Let's see here. Turn that autofocus back on. So another part of the knife that leaves me a little bit conflicted. We'll talk about action first. We'll leave the other part for the latter end of the video. As far as action, knife flips well. It's pretty smooth. It took a little bit of breaking in to get it to that point, but it is smooth, and the flipping is really good on it. Never have I had a bad deployment of the blade. When you flip it, the detent's dialed in. You know, the position of the flipper tab. It works really well, and you know, it's RJ Martin design, so you know, I would have never have had any second thoughts on that. So flipping action is really well. Not totally fall shutty action here, but again, I think that's partially due to a little bit more lock bar tension than usual, I would say. All of my other ZTs don't have that much, so I think that maybe this is just maybe a little bit of an outlier, but you know, it is what it is. We don't need to have that on every knife anyways. Fit and finish. In almost every category, this knife is exceptional, you know, as usual per ZT standards. Anodizing color was even on each side, you know, nothing, no dings or marks or anything like that. Everything seems to be lined up and nicely paired with each other, with the exception of blade centering. So you can see it's not like a massive amount off, but try to keep a nice even top down look on it. See if I can get autofocus to work in my favor here. Come on. Well, anyways, I mean, you kind of saw it there. The blade centering is not great. You guys know I'm kind of a stickler on blade centering anyways. So I thought, maybe if I take it apart, clean it, reassemble it, maybe all will be fine in the world and we won't have to worry about it. So that's when I ordered the see-through pivot tool. Waited for it to come in. Great. Now I finally got it. Now I can take the knife apart. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do that. It didn't help. So at that point, I went ahead and filled out a warranty request form and sent it back to ZT to have them take a look at it. Unfortunately, they just sent the knife back with their little letter and documentation saying they found no defect, and this knife was up to their manufacturing standards, which is kind of a bummer. It's not like it's easy to miss. The knife is clearly off-centered, and maybe it's not a huge priority to them, or I don't know why they didn't feel like fixing it, but you guys can see it's not a factory second or anything. I don't know why. I'm not sure why they didn't want to fix the centering on it, but a pretty big bummer to me as well. Having it off-centered out of the box, it's whatever. Even companies like ZT, other high-end manufacturers are just going to have some slip up every once in a while. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but the fact that I sent it back to them explaining the issue and they sent it back to me saying, no, that's normal. It's kind of strange. Like I said, I have got quite a few ZTs and all of them do not have that issue. So, if that's apparently within their manufacturing standards, that's fine, I guess. It's just a little strange and or disappointing to me. And, maybe that's just me being a little butthurt, but if I'm spending that much on a knife, I want it to be, fitted up and nice and blade centered and no play. I feel like that's not asking too much, personally. Maybe your guys' opinions on that are different, but this knife is $280, so I expect to have a centered blade. That's not asking too much, not for me. So yeah, that's the second bummer, and it's not something that makes me not want to carry the knife exactly that much, but that coupled with the other lock bar issue, So action and fit and finish out of the way. Let's go ahead and go through overall final thoughts, and then we'll shut it down. All right, guys, so here are my final thoughts, my overall statements here. This is a good knife. In my example that I have here, I can't say that it's great. But just based on those errors that I see with the lock bar, too much tension, the thin portion there where you put your thumb, just not comfortable. Proprietary tools for the pivot, which is not even a necessity to begin with. And then finally, the blade centering issue for mine just makes me not want to carry the knife as much. I don't like it as much as I feel like I should. I feel like I should like this knife a lot more. But those things are holding me back. So if you guys have one, please tell me if this is, maybe just my experience, or maybe if just this knife isn't for me. It's just not, up to my personal taste and my personal preferences. And that very well may be the case. But yeah, if you have one, go ahead and let me know. Let me know what your experience is like, and we'll see. So I would say, in this case, in a perfect world, this knife would definitely be worth $280. This one I feel like isn't, at least not for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you like the video, and to stay up to date with all of my latest content, you can also hit the Instagram link in the description below for my Instagram page. Get some cool everyday pics of knives and some behind the scenes shots as well. Yeah, I guess that takes care of it. With all that out of the way, we will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.